is SMNI News Channel. Truth that matters.
Good evening and welcome to SMNI. You're watching Business and Politics. I'm your host, Dante Klink. Our guest this evening is a talent on this network, Attorney Rolex Tupa Suplico. Some of you know him as a former congressman from Iloilo, where he also served as vice governor. During his tenure in the House of Representatives, he was the deputy minority leader from 1998 to 2007. Nowadays, he devotes his time to law practice and a few business interests. He's a named partner in Suplico and Austria Law Offices, president of Great Odysseus Security Agency Incorporated, president of Great Jupiter Mercantile Incorporated, president of R2S Manpower Services Corporation, director of Asia Pacific Medical Center, and director of Pet Plans Tower. He also has a radio program on DZAR, which is affiliated with this network. But like the television operations, the radio station has been off-air since December 2023. As you know, the National Telecommunications Commission suspended the network without a hearing or any opportunity from its representatives to address the allegations against it. Attorney Suplico has been at the forefront of getting SMNI back on air, along with the recent guests on this program. Tonight, we hope to get an update on the network's seemingly uphill legal and political battle. A number of petitions have been filed, but to date, there's been no decision yet. We'll ask Attorney Suplico, where does SMNI go from here, and are there any ramifications that every Filipino should be concerned about? Attorney Rolex, it's a pleasure to share the stage with you again. You know, I remember when we were at the presidential debates. Welcome to Business and Politics.
Thank you, Klink. I remember those days.
It seems like those days are far, far from where we are today. But siguro before we get into the discussions, maybe we should get an update from you. And you have been, as I said in the introduction, at the forefront of the legal battle, helping SMNI get back on air. There have been many developments, but maybe we should hear it from you. What's the latest?
Well, the latest order by NTC is that the network has been suspended indefinitely.
Right.
Okay, that means what the congressman failed to do,
Okay.
NTC was able to do.
Now, as I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, you're a telecoms expert,
that's
right?
correct.
That's your legal area of expertise.
Oh, Klink, I started with pagers or beepers.
Okay. So, just can you help us put it into context how unusual this is, because it doesn't seem usual. And then what are the larger implications here? Is this precedented or unprecedented situation for SMNI?
Well, Klink, the investigation in the lower house is inquiry in aid of legislation.
Right.
It's not a criminal proceeding.
Right.
Okay. On the other hand, NTC is a quasi-judicial body.
Okay.
So, administratively, it's under the office of the president.
Okay.
Okay. But it exercises quasi-judicial powers, which are only appealable to the Court of Appeals.
Okay.
So as if they NTC itself a tribunal.
Okay.
Now, Congresswoman Nograles filed a resolution which was approved by the House and referred to the NTC.
Okay.
Because of that, then we have the case in the NTC.
Right.
The first order was a suspension for 30 days.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But
that was supposed to end in January something, right?
January 20 or 21. But NTC alleged that on December 27, we operated, and SMNI operated briefly for one day.
Yeah.
It's a station in Rojas City.
Okay.
Which our technician over there denies.
Okay.
Because of that, we are now faced with a indefinite suspension order. So we have filed a motion for reconsideration. Then we're waiting for the resolution of that motion.
Okay.
But at any rate, I think we will end up in the Supreme Court.
On the Supreme Court?
Yes.
Okay.
We will go first to the Court of Appeals, then to the Supreme Court.
Okay. Now, explain to us, because how unusual this case, because we were talking before the program. Now, so there is the House hearing, which is, as you said, was supposed to be in aid of legislation. And was there a referral from the House? There was a resolution, right? Given to NTC. But you were showing me earlier that NTC acted in several capacities, including plaintiff and then also juror, and now the executioner of his decision. Can you maybe give us some
first,
explanations on that?
The referral was based on a resolution of the House alleging certain violations of the congressional franchise of SMNI.
Okay.
That's Republic Act 11422.
Okay.
But when NTC got it, it sent us a 30-day show cause order.
Okay.
A show cause order with a 30-day preventive suspension.
Okay.
Here's a copy of the order.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
So as you can see on the heading, you have the name of the tribunal.
Okay.
And what is that? NTC.
Right.
Here, you can see the parties. The complainant is NTC.
Yeah.
So can you imagine that the complainant itself is NTC in the court presided by NTC? I don't know if we can expect justice there.
Okay.
This is a 30-day suspension order.
Okay.
That means there is already a penalty.
Okay.
And who implemented that penalty? NTC itself.
NTC.
So the tribunal is NTC, complainant is NTC, the executioner of the orders is the NTC.
Can we take a step back for a minute? Because what should have been the process? I mean, as I said, you're the telecoms expert, right? What would have been the proper or correct procedure in this particular case? Because, I mentioned earlier that there was never an opportunity for SMNI to defend itself or answer the allegations against it. Is that normal, or how should it have been approached?
Well, the NTC should have authorized the regional directors or the Bureau of Broadcast Services to conduct an investigation.
Okay.
Then it should have called SMNI, asked them what happened, to answer.
Explain, right?
And then they should have arrived at a conclusion and thereafter filed the case in the name of the regional director or the Bureau of Broadcast Services.
Okay.
But it did not do that.
Now, in your experience, is this unusual, or is this typical? Have you heard of a similar case like this, or I'm just trying to wrap my head around.
Klink, I have practiced before the NTC.
As you said,
since 1991.
Since there were pagers pa.
There were pagers and nobody remembers the pagers now.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've seen a case like this.
Okay.
And this is the first time I've seen NTC surrender its quasi-judicial powers to Congress.
Okay.
Or to the House of Representatives in particular.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, the congressional hearings have also evolved, right? I think at the last hearing, there were now discussions or a resolution filed for the revocation of the franchise.
What? A House bill.
A House bill. Mm-hmm. Okay. So explain to us, maybe give your legal take on that, because the previous guests on this program, Attorney Tolentino and Mr. J. Sonsa and even former Secretary Jairoque were, of course, had their views on that. But from a legal perspective, what's your take on it? Because they're obviously, from a political perspective, they were underscoring how unusual it is, because there's an existing franchise. It's not up for renewal, right? So maybe take it away from there.
Well, this is the first time that the House, someone filed a bill in the House revoking a franchise.
Okay.
Now, I need to distinguish that from the ABS-CBN case.
Okay.
Because everybody knows the ABS-CBN
It's good that you
case.
brought that, because that's been being mentioned also.
Okay. In the ABS-CBN case, they had a pending renewal of their franchise.
Okay. So there was a reason to discuss
the franchise.
The franchise.
Yes. Then expiry day arrived without the franchise having been renewed.
Right.
So they have to file a new one.
Okay.
So when they filed a new one, that's when the hearings were conducted.
Okay.
No. So the history will tell us, Congress or the lower house or the Committee on Legislative Franchises in particular denied the grant of a new franchise.
Okay.
In this case, the franchise of SMNI was granted in 2019.
Okay.
August 22 to be exact.
Okay.
So It's a 5-year-old franchise.
Yeah.
Okay? Then they say there are violations.
Okay.
No. But if you analyze the violations, I don't think that will merit the revocation of a franchise.
So-
in fact, Klink, this is the first time
Yeah.
that a franchise has been recommended for revocation.
The first time.
The first time.
Wow.
Since 1991, as far as I know. In fact, KBP testified that this is the first time.
Wow. So, again, as an expert first of of telecoms law, what are the grounds for revoking the franchise, and what is the procedure?
Okay.
Just so we get a perspective of how unusual this process is.
Well, I have to admit, Congress cannot pass irrepealable laws.
Okay.
So laws are subject to repeal,
Okay.
amendment, revocation, or modification.
Okay.
So that's the principle. Congress
Okay.
cannot pass irrepealable laws. But then, Congress is a bicameral Congress.
Okay.
We have the lower house and we have the Senate.
Okay.
So the lower house cannot do it alone.
Okay.
It takes two to tango.
I see.
Now, here, the allegations are these, no?
Okay.
First, there was a transfer of the controlling interest.
Yes.
That's what.
that-
That's the allegation.
Yeah.
That would have merited.
from Pastor Kibuloy to the current head of the kingdom.
Pastor Kibuloy owned only 1.5%
Okay.
of the stock holdings
Right.
of SMNI as of 2020.
Right.
Now he transferred that to a workers' cooperative.
Right.
Okay. Now, the main argument is this: there is this 96% stock holdings owned
Yeah.
by Kingdom of Jesus Christ.
Right.
The name above every name.
Right.
Now, it transferred 46% to Phoebus Capital Inc.
Okay.
They're saying you need congressional approval for that.
Okay.
However, what is controlling interest?
Yeah.
In business, we know that controlling interest is 50% plus.
Okay.
A transfer of 46% is not a transfer of controlling interest. It's short.
Okay.
It's short of 6% or 6% plus.
Okay.
Because it's 50% plus
Okay.
to control a corporation. So we're saying, no, there's no need to go to Congress and secure congressional
Yeah.
approval.
But I seem to understand, at least maybe for some listed companies, if you buy at least 30%, there is already a mandate to. For some companies, that's enough for controlling, right? And you should give the other shareholders an opportunity to maybe take advantage of any
Oh, that's
offer.
the right of first refusal.
Okay.
Okay, here it's not present.
Okay.
The right of first refusal is present too within and among stockholders.
Okay.
But to say we need congressional approval for a transfer like that, no, I don't think so.
Okay.
Okay. You need only to inform Congress if there is a transfer of the controlling interest. Here, there's no need because controlling interest is 50% plus.
Okay.
The second one is responsibility to the public. Two
Okay.
programs. Gikan sa masa, para sa masa, and laban kasama ng bayan.
Okay.
In the first, it involved, the guest was former President Rodrigo Duterte.
Okay.
Okay. Allegedly, President Duterte threatened Congresswoman Franz Castro.
Right.
For which a criminal case was filed.
But it's been dismissed already.
Dismissed. So the Quezon City Prosecutor's Office said there was no sufficient basis to hold former President Duterte liable for grave threats. Okay, number two, laban kasama ng bayan. It was a question posed by Ka Eric Celis.
Okay.
He was asking about the 1.8 billion
Travel expense.
alleged travel expenses of the Speaker.
Yeah.
But these are public funds, open to public scrutiny.
Right.
And he apologized for that.
Yeah.
So may I emphasize the buzzwords, willful and deliberate, that's
Okay.
contained in the franchise of SMNI, Republic Act 11422. I don't think that's willful. I don't think that's deliberate. At any rate, we all have our mistakes. We're all humans. If someone passed to you a false tip and you air it, you can apologize afterwards. But if that broadcast of a false tip merited a closure of a network, my God, the air will be clear of radio and TV stations.
Oh, basically, you're saying there was no malice in it.
That
right?
no malice.
So on that note, we just have to take a quick break. Please stay tuned. You're watching Business and Politics. We're talking to Attorney Rolex Suplico.
Magandang umaga Luzon, Visayas, Mindanao.
Maayong buntag mga kapartner. Magandang araw sa buong mundo.
Magandang araw Pilipinas. Ito ang Pulso ng Bayan.
Hihimayin ang mga pangunahing issue sa ating bayan. Susuriin ang mga kinakailangang malaman ng taong bayan. Aalamin ang pulso ng bawat Pilipino sa mga pangyayari sa ating lipunan. Pulso ng Bayan, alas 7 hanggang alas 9 ng umaga, tuwing Lunes hanggang Biyernes. Kasama ang spokes ng Bayan, Attorney Harry Roque, Admar Vilando at Jade Calabroso. Dito lang sa SMNI.
Welcome back to Business and Politics. We're talking to Attorney Rolex Suplico. Sir, what about the petitions made? There was a petition made at the Supreme Court by Attorney Harry Roque and some employees of SMNI. I think there was also a letter or some petition given to Malacanang, to the Office of the President. What's the latest on those? I mean, and why go to Malacanang? What was the purpose? Give us the legal argument there, and what was the what was the petition with the Supreme Court?
Well, the petition with Malacanang is by virtue of a decision rendered by the MTRCB.
Okay.
So the MTRCB
For suspending those two programs.
Against the two programs.
Right, the Gikan and
Laban Kasama ng Bayan. We filed a petition for review with the Office of the President. It's pending there.
Okay.
Because MTRCB is under the Office of the President.
Okay.
Now, with Attorney Harry Roque, he went there because he has a program here.
Okay.
So he went to Supreme Court.
I see.
By virtue of petition for certiorari, saying that he has been deprived of his right to air his program.
Okay.
Okay. Now, we're waiting. We are waiting for the resolution of our motion for reconsideration on the indefinite suspension.
With the NTC.
With the NTC. Once that comes out, then the strategy is to go to the Court of Appeals, questioning that.
I see. So let me just clarify some things. So the petition with the Office of the President, if the President says, okay, I agree with you, my understanding is that doesn't get SMNI back on air. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
It only concerns two programs.
I see. I see. And are there anything obligatory on the part of SMNI? Is there like sanctions or maybe procedural changes or editorial policies that need to change, right? With regard to those two programs, so that maybe it will maybe address some of the concerns of MTRCB or others.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think. I think it should continue as it is.
What SMNI has done is sufficient,
Yes.
according to law. That's
Yes,
your position.
That's my position.
Okay. Now, the petition by Attorney Roque and the employees at the Supreme Court, what do you hope to happen from there? What can they get from the Supreme Court?
But we hope that the Supreme Court will issue a TRO.
Okay.
Okay? And that there will be a hearing that will follow it.
So is that an injunction on NTC?
On TC.
I see.
The respondent is the NTC there.
I see. Okay.
So then we are also waiting for the MR.
Okay.
Once the NTC resolves our MR, then we will go to the Court of Appeals because I don't expect any justice from the NTC.
I see. Wow. So after the Court of Appeals, I mean, there will be, in theory here, another petition from SMNI, as you said, in the Supreme Court. Would that be correct?
That is correct.
On behalf now of the Sualasug Corporation. Is that right?
Well, if we win in the Court of Appeals, assuming the NTC resolves the MR against us, then we go to the Court of Appeals.
Right.
Then I think the other party will go up. The government will go up to the Supreme Court.
But I'm just curious, isn't NTC obligated somehow to have a hearing on these petitions? I mean, it seems like it's it's acting on its lonesome here.
Well,
I mean, is that a correct impression?
The due process clause is found in Section 1,
Okay.
Article 3 of the 1987 Constitution.
Okay.
It's a long phrase.
Okay.
But you can sum it up in 2 words, fair play.
Okay.
I don't think we got fairness before the NTC.
So
it should have conducted a hearing to listen to us. then we could have questioned the complainant.
Right.
Who is the complainant there?
Right.
Is the form correct?
Right.
Because the NTC has its own rules and regulations.
Right.
In fact, the next milestone there with the case is a preliminary conference.
Right.
Who will now represent NTC?
Right.
In its own tribunal.
And as you said, you're confident that there was no violation because the basis of that decision, as you said, was there was a one-day operation of is it a radio station or
A TV station.
TV station during the 30-day suspension.
That's correct. On December 27.
Right.
In Rojas City.
Right.
Which our technician over there denied.
Right. So what is the evidence that SMNI is holding on to say that there has been no violation? Is there a logbook, or how does a network argue something like that?
We called up our technician over there.
Okay.
Because when the order came out, it stated a radio station in Region 6. We have 2 stations in Region 6.
Okay.
One in Aklan, which is not operating.
Okay.
And this one, in Rojas City, it's
Okay.
operating.
Okay.
Now, it stated there December 27. So we called them up.
Okay.
They denied operating the station in December 27.
Okay.
They said that they aired programs with a cable channel.
Okay.
That's not the platform that we're
I
talking
see.
of.
So we're talking about free-to-air frequency.
Free to air,
Okay.
covering both
I
radio and TV stations.
I see.
Mhm.
Now explain to us the legality of this, because as people know, this program remains off-air, but it's available in some cable channels. Why does the law allow that it doesn't cover? Why doesn't the law cover also cable channels?
Well, it's because
From a legal standpoint, yeah.
the law regulates frequencies.
I see.
Okay,
Which is
when
public domain.
Which is public domain. The government regulates that. It's a very limited property of the government.
Okay.
So there is a strict requirements for broadcast entities to avail of those frequencies.
Okay.
First, you have to secure a congressional franchise.
Okay.
Then you go to the NTC on an application for a particular area.
Okay.
And then the frequency.
Okay.
So it's really very, very limited.
Okay.
Now, that covers a congressional franchise. The congressional franchise simply says you're allowed to use a public property, a public asset, which is the frequency.
And a cable channel is not public domain.
It's not.
Okay.
So because you have to put up wires.
I see. I see.
Unless it's MMDS.
What is that?
It's a cable TV based on MMDS.
Okay.
You put a transmitter up there in Antipolo.
Based on a broadband.
Then you have a receiver
I see.
in your TV station, on top of your
Okay.
TV station. That means you're using frequencies.
I see.
But this time, we're not.
Now, when NTC issued its indefinite suspension order, did it give any evidence that, hey, this was SMNI's violation? Did they give you a tape? Or did they give you any document saying that this was the recorded violation and therefore we're giving you an indefinite suspension?
I'm glad you asked that question.
Okay.
Because the date itself is contained in the order.
Okay.
It came as a shock.
Okay.
Then in the last hearing, February 7, a deputy commissioner who attended the hearings claimed that there was this report from the regional office.
Okay.
And we wrote them. We will be writing them a letter asking for this report.
Okay.
So we have not seen the basis for our indefinite suspension.
So, just to get it correctly, all you heard from NTC was that you allegedly violated something and therefore you're off air indefinitely.
That is correct.
Without any evidence.
No hearing at all.
Now, again, just pursuing this legal discussion, is there any remedy for SMNI? What is the recourse here? I mean, I know that there is the option to file an appeal with the Court of Appeals after that and maybe go to the Supreme Court, and there are these other parallel petitions by other people associated with SMNI. But obviously, there are economic losses. People are out of work. What does the law say about what legal recourse is available to a network like SMNI?
Well, we are following the legal course.
Okay.
And we are filing an MR.
Okay.
If the MR is denied, we go up to the Court of Appeals.
Okay.
We're waiting for that MR now.
Okay.
But of course, we can also file a damage suit later on.
That's what I'm getting at. Because, obviously, if you win a petition later on, you get back on air, does that address the losses that were suffered by SMNI while it was suspended? I mean, What does the law say there, Nana?
Well, actually, we're entitled to a damage suit.
Okay.
Then we can also file a case for anti-graft.
Okay.
Because definitely, this has violated our rights.
Okay, so the anti-graft case, I suppose that would go to Sandigan Bayan. Is that correct?
Ombudsman, then Sandigan Bayan.
Ombudsman first. I see. So, what does the law say about that? I mean, what would be the argument for a case to be filed with the ombudsman if it reaches that?
Well, manifest impartiality.
Okay.
Because we were never accorded our day
Due
in court.
process, yeah.
Due process.
Okay.
It was violated by NTC.
Okay. Wow. And assuming that you win that argument, what does the law say about the possible penalties there for, I suppose, NTC or the people you will find?
It's possible that before the ombudsman, before the case reaches the Sandigan Bayan, we can ask for their suspension.
Okay.
In fact, we already did call their attention. We filed a motion to inhibit.
You mean you called the attention of NTC?
Yes, we
Okay.
filed a motion to inhibit because we were surprised.
Okay.
Why is the complainant the NTC? And they,
Okay.
it came from them.
Right.
How do we get justice from that setup?
Right.
Someone said, it did not come from me. But one of the reporters, the word Lutong Macau was used.
Okay. Wow. Heavy stuff. Attorney, we just have to take another quick break. You're watching Business and Politics. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to Business and Politics. We're talking to Attorney Rolex Suplico. Before I leave this legal discussion behind, do you see any hope? I mean, from a legal perspective, I mean, is there any hope you think that the network can be back on air, or given all that has happened, that that would be unlikely?
Let me explain the damage done.
Okay.
This order contains the list of stations,
Okay.
TV and radio stations here.
Okay.
A lot.
Okay.
You know how many TV stations
No, how
and
many?
radio stations SMNI has?
No.
Well, it has 30 operating radio and TV stations.
Nationwide.
29 non-operating for a total of 59 stations.
Okay.
Nationwide.
Okay.
That's a lot of stations. It's a network. It's a big network.
Right.
And people are out of work.
Yeah.
We are now operating on another platform. Let me repeat, not on free-to-air.
Not on free-to-air, yeah.
So, what is happening here?
Right.
The NTC is supposed to protect us.
Right.
Government is also supposed to protect SMNI.
Yeah.
The freedom of information, the press freedom is there. Yet,
Yeah.
we are not protected. We're left to our own devices.
Yeah.
So what's in store for us? I think we can only get justice from the Supreme Court.
Now, so a lot of people would say, or point out the obvious, that this is really not about a legality or what is legal, right? But this is really about something political. Now, for this series, I want to, I want to ask you to put your congressman's hat on and give me your political analysis, right? Because it's obvious, at least to me, that, we're not talking about legal arguments here, but really it seems like it's more political that's encroaching now, no matter how buloktot it is, into something legal, right? What's your take there? What's your political analysis here?
2 years ago, I thought
Okay.
we're all friends.
Okay.
Remember?
Yeah.
The president went to our event.
The debate.
It was
yeah.
the debates,
Yeah.
deep probe.
Yeah.
And I think all the officials of the present government were there.
Right.
Were there, listening to the boss.
Yes.
Answer questions from us.
Sure.
Okay. Now, what happened? Who is afraid of SMNI?
Okay.
Sino bang takot sa SMNI?
Yeah.
Well, we now see a polarization in politics.
Okay.
So you have Sara Duterte.
Okay.
And on the other hand, you also have Speaker Martin Romualdez.
Okay.
Okay. These two are clashing.
Sure.
The first open war was the budget of the Department of Education.
Okay.
Okay.
The intelligence funds.
The intelligence funds. Okay.
Yeah.
So now, where does SMNI stand there?
Okay.
SMNI is identified to be a Davao-based network, and
Okay.
therefore allied with the Dutertes.
Okay.
So take the SMNI out of the equation, and maybe the other side will feel that they have a fighting chance.
Now, I've asked this from, Jay Sonsa and Attorney Tolentino. As you said, who's afraid of SMNI? Because, a lot of journalists are saying that, SMNI is fringe, right? That it's not part of the established media. But, they grudgingly defend press freedom as well, and maybe somehow sympathize with SMNI. The point is that it seems like it's a very small network. I mean, how much damage do you think it can be? Again, I'm asking you for your political analysis here, because it seems like in even the people from here, at least from the people I've talked to, they're not against the government. In fact, they want the president to succeed. And so, where's the threat? That's the point I'm trying to make, right? And as you said, they were friendly with the network before the elections, and now things have seemingly changed.
Well, it's only now that I realize the reach of SMNI.
Okay.
With 59 stations operating nationwide.
Okay.
That's a lot for a network, Klink.
Yeah.
And they took out the 59, and we were still operating on the other platform.
Okay.
YouTube, what else? All the rest.
Yeah, all the social
Not based
media.
on free-to-air.
Yeah.
But in the last hearing, they were trying to silence us in those platforms as well.
What were they saying?
They were saying they should, government should stop us from operating on YouTube, on the
Okay.
other platforms as well.
On what legal basis?
Well, they were trying to prove. They were trying to ask MTRCB and TC to stop us.
Okay.
So can you imagine? Why stop us
Okay.
on outside of the free-to-air system, outside of the TV and radio stations?
Yeah.
Maybe they still feel the power of SMNI.
But you've been associated with this network longer than I have. I think you have a radio program.
Yes,
long
itanong
before.
mo kay Panyero.
Right. So I'm trying to recall. Was there anything before this confrontation with, as you said, the speaker and the vice president? Was there anything that you heard that may be threatening to the speaker or the administration? Because I can't recall any. I mean, to be honest with you.
Maybe they cannot imagine that SMNI will be free of Davao.
Okay.
Of its Davao connections.
Okay.
In fact, in the prayer rally in Davao,
Okay.
and the festivities that preceded it,
Okay.
in that afternoon,
Okay.
only SMNI aired the program there.
I see.
And what is the effect? No, it was. I think the program was held together with Bagong
Bagong Pilipinas.
Bagong Pilipinas.
Yeah.
Yet that program in Davao overshadowed Bagong Pilipinas. I think that's power. I think that's the domain of SMNI.
No, but the point I was trying to make was that, to put it in Filipino, hindi naman kalaban eh. That's my point. I mean, at least before these exchanges that you mentioned with the budget of the OVP and the House, do you recall any incident where
No, I don't.
because from what I hear from Pastor Kibuloy's statement, and maybe even from the former President Duterte, they weren't against the Marcos administration.
I know.
They wanted to the president to succeed. I mean,
in fact, I would say that SMNI is more government than government. It's more popist than the Pope.
all right.
Well, it's people view it as a government station.
So help us understand here. What are the political undercurrents here? Why is this happening? You think?
Klink, I think that they cannot imagine a situation where SMNI would support the candidacy of Speaker Martin Romualdez as president after President Bongbong Marcos.
Just because of that?
Yes, I don't think that situation is cannot be imagined. It will never happen.
Help us understand also what's going on in the House, right? Because as I understand it, the first resolution or bill filed was by Attorney Congresswoman Mix Nograles, right? Who of course is also from Davao. How do you read that political development there? At least what you can share publicly. I don't want to put you on the spot.
There are two resolutions filed by the Makabayan Bloc.
Okay.
Nandun lang, languishing.
Okay.
Then, after the allegation of the speaker traveling expenses, Congressman J.J. Suarez delivered a privilege speech.
Okay.
After that, Congresswoman Nograles filed her resolution. Okay, calling for the suspension of SMNI for alleged franchise violations.
Right.
Now, after that, Congressman Gutierrez of One Rider Party List filed his House bill for the revocation of the franchise of SMNI.
Yeah.
Okay, now, let's talk about the Nograleses.
Okay.
Okay, before PRD became president, they were already fighting over in Davao.
I see.
The late speaker, Nograles, was, at one time, I understand, was a candidate against then mayoralty candidate Rodrigo Duterte. But of course, he lost to Duterte.
Okay.
Now, during the Duterte presidency, they were together.
Okay.
Congressman Carlo Nograles was the cabinet secretary.
Right.
Then, just before the term ended, they appointed him. They had him
Civil
nominated
service,
and appointed Civil Service, Chairman of Civil Service Commission, which is actually one of the constitutional commissions.
Right.
And with a term.
Yeah, with a fixed term.
I think 7 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, remember when the franchise of SMNI was up for renewal, the sponsors were the Nograles brothers.
Okay.
Carlo and I forgot the name of the other, Jojo.
Okay.
They were the sponsors of a House bill calling for the renewal of the franchise of SMNI. So what happened? I understand that in the barangay elections, there was a big fight over in Davao.
Okay.
And they were able to get inside Davao City.
Okay.
So the stage is set for a Duterte-Nograles fight again.
Okay.
Once again, in 2025.
2025.
Okay, but that's different. What about Speaker Speaker Romualdez?
Yeah.
I think that's a different case altogether.
Okay.
I think that is the fight for the successor to President Bongbong Marcos. In fact, I would tie that up to the People's Initiative.
Okay. But a lot of people would point out that they were part of the same unity, right? I mean, as a political, personality as well.
Mm-hmm.
Does that surprise you that this is the way how it is unfolding? Because from an outsider, right? I mean, my assumption would be if you have higher political ambition, then your move should be to bring people together, add people to your side, right? But this seems to be dividing what is already a unified movement, right? What is your take on that?
Well, they say politics is addition.
Right,
Yet
exactly.
we see subtraction.
Right.
We see division. I think it's up to the president to play his card very well. He has a card to play.
Okay.
It's up to him to call the warring parties together and tell them to, smoke the peace pipe.
Yeah.
But we're waiting for that. Only a word from the president will stop these intramurals.
Wow. Well, on that note, we have to take another quick break. Please stay tuned to Business and Politics. We're talking to Attorney Rolex Suplico. We'll be
Magandang balita mga kapartner. Simula na ang voter registration para sa 2025 national at local elections. Maaaring magparehistro mula Lunes hanggang Sabado, kabilang ang holidays mula alas 8 ng umaga hanggang alas 5 ng hapon, maliban na lamang kung ideklara ng COMELEC na walang registration. Kabilang sa mga araw na walang voter registration ay sa March 28, Monday-Thursday, March 29, Good Friday, at sa March 30, Black Saturday. Paano nga ba magparehistro? Magpunta lamang sa mga opisina ng election officer sa inyong lugar o sa Register Anywhere program sites. Maaari rin sa satellite o mall registration sites. Narito naman ang mga hakbang para sa registration. Una, magpresenta ng valid identification document. Tapos ay sumailalim sa interview na isasagawa ng registration staff. Sagutan ang application form. Maghintay para sa checking at verifikasyon ng ipinasang application form. Biometrics capture at hintayin ang paglabas ng acknowledgement receipt. Sino-sino nga ba ang mga maaaring magparehistro? Ang mga nasa edad 18 years old pataas sa araw ng national at local elections. Residente ng Pilipinas sa loob ng hindi bababa sa 1 taon. Residente sa lugar kung saan magboboto sa loob ng hindi bababa sa 6 na buwan. Hindi diskwalipikado ng batas at mga hindi pa nakapagparehistro. Ano-ano ang may tuturing na valid identification documents? PhilSys National ID Card, Postal ID Card, PWD ID Card, Student's ID Card or Library Card signed by the school authority, Senior Citizen's ID Card, LTO Driver's License or Student Permit, NBI Clearance, Philippine Passport, SSS or GSIS ID or other humid card, Integrated Bar of the Philippines ID Card, Professional Regulatory Commission License, Certificate of Confirmation issued by the National Commission on Indigenous Peoples for members of ICCs or IPs, Barangay Identification or Certification with Photo at anumang government-issued na valid IDs. Tandaan, hindi tinatanggap ng COMELEC ang mga sumusunod: employer o employee ID, community tax certificate o sedula, at police clearance. Paalala ng SMNI, huwag sayangin ang iyong karapatang bumoto, kaya magparehistro na. Mahalaga ang iyong boses sa ating demokrasya. Nasa kamay mo ang kapangyarihan para sa pagbabago. Huwag ipagbili ang iyong karapatan. At sa darating na eleksyon, pag-isipan ng mabuti ang ihahalal na kandidato para sa Diyos at sa Pilipinas nating mahal.
Welcome back to Business and Politics. We're talking to Attorney Rolex Sublico. Sir, let me just ask you this, and this is something I've asked my previous guests. What is the end game here? How do you see this unfolding? Right? Because Mr. Sonsa said, relief can come at any time because he's fairly confident about the legal arguments of SMNI. Attorney Tolentino, however, was a little bit more pessimistic because his take on it was that this is all very political, and because it is political, it follows the political milestones, which would be in this case 2025 midterm elections, and possibly the worst scenario is after 2028 when we have presidential elections. What's your analysis here? What's the end game?
Well, Klink, let me say first what I want to happen.
Okay.
I want the parties to smoke the peace pipe together. I want the president to call them together in a meeting and tell them to stop it.
Okay.
And the president should tell them, for my benefit and the benefit of the Filipino people, let's stop it.
Right.
Shake
Right.
hands. That's
Trabaho
it.
muna tayo.
Trabaho muna. Period. Wala na akong gusto marinig.
Right.
Ganun sana ang gusto ko marinig na mangyayari. However,
Okay.
the reality is, I don't think there is an end in sight. I
Okay.
think they really want to delete or exclude SMNI from the equation in
Okay.
2028.
Okay.
2028 will be the next presidential elections.
Okay.
They want SMNI out of that.
Out of the equation. Wow. So, I remember from the debates that, we were talking before that you had some experience with President Marcos. He was, I think, a candidate for the Senate back then. That you had done some favors for him in Iloilo or something like that, and then I remember you telling me that, I don't know if he remembers, but at the debate, you approached him, you guys talked, and you were surprised to say
I called
that,
you over.
Yes, and you said that, he remembers, that you were quite, I mean, have you had any opportunity to talk to him and maybe express this views that, Mr. President,
No.
please step in and...
That was in 1995.
Right.
To 1998. I forgot which year.
Right.
But someone asked me to help him around.
Yeah.
So I brought him to Barotac Nuevo.
Okay.
He was all alone.
Right.
Nobody knew him.
Right.
And I accompanied him, and he shook the hands of people that were there, milling around.
Right.
And he remembered that.
Right. And that's the point I'm trying to make. I mean, again, it stresses the point I was saying earlier, that you're not a political rival. In fact, that you at some point also helped them. But how is it that that is seemingly swept under the rug, forgotten, all because of maybe what some would say, ambitions for 2028?
Well, I think, Klink, that at this point in time, people have their own agendas.
Okay.
They have their own plans.
Okay.
And they are trying to implement those plans for
Okay.
the furtherance of their own ambitions.
Right.
And they're way too far.
Right. Now, you said that you would prefer the president to step in, tell people to stop. Let's talk about what's important for the country. Have you also had a chance to maybe talk to former President Duterte?
No.
And maybe ask him, Mr. President, why don't you be the one to be humble enough to go to Malacanang and say, Mr. President Marcos, let's talk about the country first.
After the prayer rally in Davao.
Yeah.
I think that's out of the question now.
Okay.
I think someone will have to patch things up for both parties.
Okay.
The Dutertes and the Marcoses.
Okay.
I would point out to Senator Amy Marcos to bridge that gap. I don't know if she's willing, but I think she's in the right position to invite the parties together.
Right.
Maybe have a salo-salo.
Right.
Then after that, forget about everything. Let's do this for the Filipino people.
Have you had an opportunity to talk to Senator Amy?
No, I don't have.
I see.
I did not have that opportunity.
Okay. What about on the side of SMNI? I mean, have you had a chance to talk to Pastor Kibuloy?
Well, only once when I went to Davao.
Okay. And is there any maybe indication that we'll be the ones to talk to the president and say, look, hindi nyo kami kalaban? Is there any discussion about something like that?
Sinabi niya yun.
Okay.
Na hindi siya ang kalaban. In fact, I told him, you help this government.
Right. I remember they campaigned for the president. Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know how the cookie will crumble.
Okay.
I hope it crumbles in favor of the Filipino people.
Right. So on the political dimension here, as you said, and other guests have said, we're looking at 2028 until we see the end game here. Legally, what's your expectation? I mean, how fast will the NTC have to act on your petition before you go to the Court of Appeals? Is there a limit to when the Court of Appeals will act on Secretary Roque's petition? What are the timetables that you're looking out here?
Well, in the Supreme Court, we have Harry Roque's petition.
Right.
Okay. Now, we're waiting for the resolution of the MR with NTC.
Okay.
After that, we're going up to the Court of Appeals. But without the resolution, we will not go to the Court of Appeals. That's a requirement.
Okay.
That was the basis for the dismissal of our first petition for certiorari before the Court of Appeals.
Okay.
And in the meantime, we have to attend the hearings in the House of Representatives.
Right. This is the new petition.
That's correct. I mean, the Committee on Legislative Franchises.
Right.
That's where we are right now.
So, what would be the procedure there? I mean, educate us a bit here. So, there are now public hearings. How many hearings are they obligated to have? Does it go to the plenary? And as you said, they can't act alone. It goes to the Senate. What's the time frame that we're looking at here?
Well, there's no time frame.
Okay. So this can
It's
drag on.
open-ended. Yes, this could drag on.
Okay.
And so we are now, last February 7, I think we are now on our 5th hearing before the Committee on Legislative Franchises.
Okay.
Is there an ending? No, I don't see any ending at this point in time.
Wow. Do you think there will be maybe encouragement from the Duterte camp to maybe pose some challenges to the speaker? I mean, there is that opportunity, right? Because people will be going up for re-election in 2025 next year, right? What's the political play there from what you're hearing and what you can share with the public?
We're looking at two things for this to end. First, there has to be a committee report filed by the committee with the House and plenary. If
Okay.
that is filed, then the hearings will end.
Okay.
Number two, if that is not filed, then we're looking at June 30.
Of this year?
No, next year.
Of
the
next year.
ending of the present Congress. The present Congress will end on June 30.
I see.
Okay, that's it. Now, maybe political meeting called by the president will do the trick.
Okay.
That's a third option.
Okay.
But I'm not counting on it.
And what about you? Are there people talking to you about maybe coming out of retirement, leaving your lucrative practice behind, and maybe going back into the political arena? And then who else might we be seeing from those friendly to SMNI or the Dutertes to maybe come back to politics and maybe duke it out in Congress? What have you been hearing now?
Well, actually, there are quarters talking to me about a comeback.
Okay.
But I've seen Congress now. It's different from the Congress that I've been to.
I know when we were talking during the debate, I mean, you were saying, how difficult it is now financially, right, to compete, right?
That's correct.
Oh, then that's, I think if I remember correctly, it turned you off. That's why you said you might as well just practice law and enjoy your life.
Well, I've never seen a speaker with iron control on the lower house.
Okay,
This speaker has it.
really?
Even the minority follows his directions.
Okay,
Even the left
okay.
follows the direction of the speaker now.
Well,
That's iron control.
They do say that politics makes strange bedfellows.
Let's be honest. It's because of the pork barrel system.
Okay,
The pork barrel system is going underground, but it's bigger now.
wow. Well, that's sad to hear. Thank you very much for your time, Tony Rolex. But before we go, you want to leave our guests with final message, final thoughts?
Well, my friends, my countrymen, I thought that this day will never end, but I think it will end. I think the problems of SMNI will come to an end. We are hoping that the Supreme Court, when we file the petition there, will rule in our favor. That way, press freedom, freedom of information, and due process will prevail once again. If that can happen to SMNI, it can happen to everyone. I hope this is the last. Thank you.
Well, thank you also, Tony Rolex, for your time and for your thoughts. I'd like to thank our viewers watching this program. I'd like to thank also Pastor Apollo Kibuloy for making this program possible. This has been Business and Politics. I'm Dante Klink, and I will see you next week. Tony Rolex.
SMNI Balita Totoo.
Subscribe to SMNI News Channel and turn on the notification bell to keep you up to date. Also visit our official social media accounts and join our community on Viber and Telegram.